I had a revelation Saturday sitting in McLean Stadium watching Baylor struggle, particularly in the third quarter against Samford. Struggle to move the ball on the ground, blow people off the line, struggle to complete passes against an FCS opponent. By the way, not just an FCS opponent, but a bad FCS opponent. Like a team that might win 3 games this year in the FCS. And I asked the question out loud, and it got some reaction from the people sitting around me, so I thought I'd ask you today. I think Sawyer Robertson is Peyton Manning in the clutch. All due respect, like, how dare I compare anyone to the great Peyton Manning? But by that, I mean decisive, intelligent, changing the play at the line, precise strikes all over the field, exactly where the football needs to be. That's what Sawyer Robertson is in the gotta have it moments, right? We saw it against SMU. The nation saw it against SMU. He was praised throughout last week. Is he Peyton Manning in the must-have it moments? But here's a name you haven't heard in a minute. Blake Szymanski in other moments? Ugh. Now, if you don't know who Blake Szymanski is, let me fill you in. Blake Szymanski was Baylor's starting quarterback in 2007. He served as Sean Bell's backup in 2006 when Lee Hayes was hired as Baylor's offensive coordinator. Lee Hayes was a Mike Leach disciple. He was bringing this Leach kind of offense to Baylor. It was an early expression of the spread. It wasn't truly like West Coast. It was more like the air raid, but really innovating towards spread offense. By the way, for context, Chip Kelly became the OC at Oregon in 2007. So this is right here at the emergence of the spread offense. And Blake Szymanski steps in as the full-time starter in 2007 and breaks all sorts of Baylor single-season passing records. If I read these numbers off to you, you'd be sad about what those single-season passing records were. But here's who Blake Szymanski was. In a spread offense, he broke passing records at Baylor, but he broke 22 touchdowns to 18 interceptions. Broke, not good. Not a reason for confidence. He completed 57% of his passes. Not good. Not a particular reason for confidence, although better than Arch Manning yesterday. Is Sawyer just Blake Szymanski when the lights are turned down a little bit? And by that, I mean, can put up numbers in a good system, but not a lot of confidence, not a lot of reason for confidence. Dave Aranda saying yesterday after the game, that was the Sawyer Robertson of 2023, not the guy we know from the past season. It's easy to pin eyeballs during a game and blame after the game on a quarterback, but the reality is Baylor played poorly in a lot of levels on Saturday against Samford. Line play wasn't good enough. Defense wasn't good enough. Dave Aranda saying after the game he was disappointed in the team's effort. Dave Aranda accurately identifying some of the things we've been saying on this show for a few weeks. This team was playing in a fog. Didn't look like they wanted to be out there. Struggling to get up and play this football game. By the way, a continued reflection of your head coach. Coach, that's on you to get them up to play. And guys, the time for messing around on over. Because Saturday, Arizona State's coming into town. And Arizona State is pissed after dropping a game to Mississippi State last week. Arizona State has a head coach and a quarterback coming off a Big 12 title who are considered some of the best in the league. And if you have gaps in your execution, gaps in your desire to go play well, playing in a fog when Arizona State comes to town, brother, it's going to be a rough Saturday this week for Baylor. There is no more room for feeling people out, making mistakes, not being able to tackle, not being able to open a hole against a FCS defensive line. for Bryson Washington. The excuse making is getting old. And if Baylor is going to reach its goals, not my goals for it, not Terrence Ganaway's goals for Baylor, its own goals to compete for a Big 12 championship and compete for a college football playoff spot. It's time. Now, it's time. It's time. Every game from here on out is of infinite importance towards that goal. We need Sawyer Robertson to be more like the Peyton Manning version of himself and not like Blake Szymanski. We need Dave Aranda to take accountability for this team's effort and change something. Do something different. Find a way to make guys tackle. And if they're not tackling, take them off the field. We need this team to play up to the potential of their talent. And don't mishear me. I'm not being armchair head coach, Mr. Critical. I'm going to praise some guys on this football team. I love this football team. I think the talent on this football team is potentially the best we've had, certainly since 2021. That's not a question, but maybe since 2016, 15. So don't be mad at me for having high expectations that this own team has set for itself. Let's have an honest conversation about where this team is and how they need to grow to take advantage of the opportunity before them and win a Big 12 title. My name's Scotty Swingler. Terrence Ganaway is here with me. This podcast is called Please Bear With Me. Why don't you step on in? Let's get this one going. Oh my goodness. The comment section is alive, Terrence Ganaway. All kind of chatter coming through today. I liked this one. That's okay. Dave only needs 5 more years to figure it out. That was making me laugh during that introduction. Terrence Ganaway, hello. How are you?
Scotty, I am doing well. How are you, man? How's everything in your world?
Man, my world is all over the place, bro, but I am all right. We had a successful Green and Gold game day show before the game on Saturday, 3-hour pregame show at the Camp Fimfo tailgate. Hey, if you're watching right now and you didn't know about it, come by 3 hours before the game this coming Saturday. We'll be out there. I'm trying to talk Terrence into being there. So, but we did that. That was great. My Bears won, even though I didn't like it. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. Went to church this morning. Thankful for my family.
Amen.
Thankful for you, bro. How are you?
Listen, I'm living a dream. Went to church today. It was a fantastic message on living lighter, and it's rooted in Matthew 11:28. Those that are weary and heavy burden, I'll give you rest. And so I think rest is super important, not just, dozing off for 15 minutes and getting up and being busy, but rest and peace in your soul. As a Marvel fan, every time I think about rest, I think about Tony Stark and Avengers Endgame when he's trying to figure out how to time travel, space travel. And then Pepper goes over to him. He's like, I think I figured it out, but I don't want to do it. And she says, but will you be able to rest?
Right.
He goes on and does what he does. I'm not going to spoil it, but at the end of the movie, he's finally able to rest on a grateful universe, which was Thanos' line. But we are grateful here in my universe, in the real world. And I'm very fortunate to have a partner to walk along life with in you. So I appreciate you asking. I'm good, man.
That was a very, very kind word. Thank you, man. Hey, we've already got comments lighting this stuff up. Oh, by the way, Sick'em Bears says good word, Ganaway. But we're already getting chatter here, Terrence, and it was the first bullet point I had on my sheet. Because Sick'em Bears also says, I've abandoned all Heisman hopes, while Scotty B, the Baylor King, we love you, Scotty, says, here's the thing about the Heisman. It's based on the end of the season, not just the beginning. We're already having all this Sawyer Robertson chatter in the chat, which I think is hilarious because, as I said in the introduction, that is an easy takeaway from this game. I don't at all think it's the biggest takeaway from this football game yesterday. But Sawyer did throw some bad footballs yesterday. It is crazy to me. You could play fairly well against Auburn and outstanding in a second half against SMU, and then throw ugly interceptions. No interceptions in those two games, and some ugly interceptions yesterday, Terrence. Was this just a case of playing down to your opponent? Or, like, let me give you credit. We had this whole conversation between you and Jackson Posey last week about, is Sawyer a Heisman candidate, or do we need to see more? You came out and said, man, maybe I was wrong about Sawyer Robertson. Well, today we're saying, oh, man, Terrence Ganaway was seeing some red flags, and those showed up on the field yesterday. It is my first bullet point for us to address today. It's so easy to look and put everything on the quarterback, fair or unfair. Thoughts on yesterday for Sawyer Robertson?
Well, I can tell you this. Sawyer, to answer your question, is he a Heisman candidate? Does he need more work? Yes and yes. Sawyer has one of the biggest arms in college football. That doesn't make him not a quarterback that is still in the growth process. He doesn't have a ton of starts under his belt. One of the things where I see when a play is unscripted, it's not a quick read and it's very decisive getting the ball out of his hands. I think he gets, and listen, I'm not in the quarterback room, I'm not coaching, but I think he can get lazy with his feet and kind of just sit there and cement, and then he's trusting his arm. That's great when you have a big quarterback and you got a cannon. Bryce Petty did this very well, threw the ball very, very well. But when you think about someone like Nick Florence that gets to color commentate and listen to him talk about, some of what Sawyer can do and the potential he has, I think you have to be more of a Nick where everything fundamentally has to be sound, which allows you to have more upside. He's going to be great because this offense does not have identity like I've talked about last week. It doesn't have a running game, even though we did move the ball a little bit better against Samford, but it doesn't have a defense that can stop anybody yet. There were some very opportunistic plays last night, and I just think if Sawyer is going to get 50 throws a game, he's going to be up there with one of those people that threw for 4,000 or 5,000 yards this season. And if we learned anything about last year, Heisman, it's all about reps. So he's going to get the reps to get into the Heisman conversation. We're going to have to win some big games, and he's going to have to show up in big moments, which there's no doubt that he can do that. But the routine second base throws is what I talked about last week. And we saw him miss a couple, and those balls ended up in the dugout.
Absolutely, yeah. Inaccuracy, interceptions, and ugly interceptions too. To respond to one of these comments, Shrike 8145, very active in the comment section. Welcome to Please Bear With Me. Says, we win 6 games, but sorry, we're the Heisman. That's okay. Who cares about the Heisman? Here's the deal, bro. And Roy Philpott said this on the Pete Souza show last week here on Rogue Media. Sawyer's not winning the Heisman unless Baylor wins 10 games. Like that's just bottom line. Like there are quarterbacks every year who can put up huge numbers, but if the team is not competing for the playoff, winning at least 10 games, you're not going to win the Heisman. Terrence, I've told this story on this podcast before, and it's a true story. I swear on anything you want me to, it's a true story. After Robert Griffin's very first football game at Baylor against Wake Forest in 2008, I was a high schooler. And my father and I were walking out of that football game, and I had never seen someone that dynamic on the field at Baylor in my life. Like, we knew after one game. Wow, I knew after one game. I had gone to every Baylor home football game since I was a child, and I had never seen athleticism like that on Baylor's side.
Until I got there, right?
until you got there, of course.
Thank you.
And
Appreciate it.
we all know that Heisman, when Griffin said it's a team award, he was talking about Terrence Galloway. And I asked my dad walking out of that Wake Forest game in 2008, can Robert Griffin win the Heisman? Was that a player capable? I swear to God, I asked him that after Griffin's first game at Baylor. I fantasized about it. And my dad's response was, well, I don't know, but Baylor has to win a lot more football games first. Obviously, they did, and he did. Same is true for Sawyer, obviously. The dude is going to put up some numbers, as you pointed out. This offense caters itself to that. This receiving core caters itself to that. But if they're not in that Big 12 championship game in December, I don't think he wins the award. I mean, I think that's kind of what it comes down to. Lots of chatter in the comments. Please keep commenting. Like and subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. If you're watching on X, hop over to YouTube. Like and subscribe to Please Bear With Me. Terrence, one of the things I wanted to address to you that it bothered me. It bothered me that this was the statement, but I at least appreciate. I think Dave Aranda, for as much grief as I've already given him early in this season, I think he's pretty self-aware. I think he's pretty self-aware, and I think he's pretty honest. I don't think he's oblivious to what's going on. Whether he can or can't fix some of the issues remains to be seen. But his quote from yesterday was, "We were playing in a fog." And I think all of us saw that, whether we would describe it that way or not. I think that's an apt way to describe it. My question is, how do you overcome that? What was your reaction to that? And is that something that we can say, oh, that was just a Samford thing? Or is that something that potentially lingers into a Big 12 opener this week?
Yeah, I think Dave Aranda is very smart and very aware of everything that's going on around him. One of the things that I would want to see more of this is diagnosing it prior to the game.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have to go through a game and say, well, we wasn't tackling bad. That means practice wasn't great either. I mean, our pastor on stage is keeping the theme. He talked about his son catching a couple of touchdown passes as a freshman on varsity this year, just this past weekend. And he's got in the car. He's like, the reason why people can celebrate that is because all the little hard things you did prior. I mean, we missed tackles again this week, and Samford has athletes too. They put on their pants just like we do at Baylor. They do at Baylor. And one of the things Baylor has to understand is getting people to the ground, tackling, pursuit, making plays. And so I don't know if it's something that, we've always been in the fog. I said we have a sluggish start. I mean, we were only up 14-7 at the end of the first quarter, and it didn't look or feel like we were dominating that game in any fashion. I mean, outside of that hit that turned into a interception, it felt like Samford is about to score and go tie the game at 14-14. Did I ever doubt that we were going to win a game? No. We have too many players on our sideline to lose that game. And Matt Rule, I think he was trying to set a precedent. Like, we didn't need to win games. We had to do the hard work. Dave Aranda cannot afford to lose to Samford in year 6. So as we look through what needs to happen, there needs to be great practices, great indications during the week that will tell you if a team is ready to play or not. I've never been a part of any team in my life, any organization, any culture that if you don't practice or rehearse or do things prior to game time and it not show up, it's sometimes it's tragic mistakes that happen when you're not prepared. And so when I hear a fog, was practice this week a fog? Was it like we get to take a deep breath? We beat a playoff team last year. SMU may not be a playoff team this year. Last year they got a different they got a different roster. So we cannot rest on those laurels.
Right.
But what I would say, Scotty, is if you think about it, let's pump the brakes. If you think about it, Baylor's 2-1, haven't beat SMU. A lot of things to correct against Auburn, but we're 2-1 at the end of the first quarter of the season. Going into the second quarter, we got a big game this week. It's 6:30 on Fox. There's going to be some eyes on us. What will we see this week? So now we enter the second quarter of the season, which is super critical. How do we respond against Arizona State? We're a favorite at home. Then we got two very winnable games against Oklahoma State, and then Kansas State. We could literally walk into the second quarter of the season, and be 3-0. And then everybody's looking around. Maybe Sawyer Robertson is a Heisman contender. Maybe he is a Heisman candidate, top of that list, if we go and do what we need to do. Now, he will have to be special, and I think some of those special moments have to happen. But we got everything in front of us, like you said earlier this year, but we have to absolutely go take it.
Good word, man. And you did. You texted me today and said you think this second quarter of the season is going to be the most important stretch. And I think you're right, because it's sort of, we saw Baylor last year come alive in the third and fourth quarters of the season, but by then it's too late. I mean, I think they had like one very convoluted scenario going into the final week where they could have made the Big 12 championship, but they needed like 3 teams to lose, and it was like very convoluted. That's not where you want to be this year. You can't do it if you don't start well. By the way, Kansas State looks bad. Like they do not look like a good football team, which is a surprise to most people. Arizona State, probably still a decent football team coming to Waco this Saturday, but lost to Blake Shapen and Mississippi State. And I'm not here to just pile on Blake Shapen. I hope he's well, but Mississippi State not exactly competing for an SEC title this season, we presume, right? So these games are very winnable, but Terrence, these games are not winnable. I think Kansas State can very easily still beat you. Arizona State certainly can still beat you if you make some of these tackling errors. If you can't blow people off the line on offense, you can lose to these teams. Even if you've got more talent, even if you're projected to win. By the way, Arizona State today, a 5.5-point favorite this Saturday in McLean. So Vegas still not with Baylor all the way. And here's my question. You talked about practice. I think one of my biggest questions for Dave Aranda, had I been in that press conference, and I wasn't, about the fog comment, Dave Aranda seems to be surprised when Baylor plays poorly, because he will often say, man, we did not have a bad week of practice. I was a little pissed off when in his radio post game, they were asking him about the day, and he was like, man, it sure is good to get Lewis Brown a touchdown. That guy has been our best weapon in practice. We need to unlock him in a game. I'm like, bro, he had the worst drop against SMU. He had another drop yesterday, and I'm glad he got a touchdown. I'm not rooting against the kid, but like, you've got Ashton Hawkins and Josh Cameron balling out. We don't need Lewis Brown. That is the least of our concerns, is why is Lewis Brown so good in practice and not good on the field? I don't care about that. We got 12 other issues to solve before we worry about Lewis Brown getting his catches. That comment drove me crazy. So it seems to me like there's some kind of disconnect between what's happening at practice and what we're seeing on the field for Dave Aranda. Why is that?
So I think as a head coach, I'm not a head coach, never been. But as a head coach, you say some of that in the media to stir up the locker room. You say Lewis Brown has been practicing very well. Maybe he deserves more reps. That means if he gets more reps, by nature, someone's going to get less reps. So who isn't practicing well in practice? Maybe that's me reading into that statement. But I agree with Coach Aranda that everyone that puts on a BU jersey on Saturday has to be additive to the team. You have to have people on the team that's making the team better. Practice squad. I mean, everybody from whoever is making omelets for the team in the morning to who's turning off the lights at night. Everyone has to be a part of the value of what Baylor University wants to put out on a field any given Saturday. And so if you got people working really hard to practice and push the pace, the tempo, and the cadence in which they play at, that's 100% okay. Glasgow Martin was one of the hardest practicing running backs. He got reps during during practice when me and Salubi were joking around. And I think if you really want to know, like it is not a good feeling. I did not start one game my senior year. It was against Missouri. Salubi started the game. He had a better week of practice. I had a great game against Missouri. Doesn't matter. I didn't start. And I think if you start doing that, you're going to make sure you come ready to go. I rushed for 42 times against Texas Tech my senior year. The next week I was ready to practice because I did not want to not start again. And so when you got guys like that, yeah, you give them an opportunity because then it sets the precedent of like, hey, this is what we're going to do. But to your point, what are we watching and how are we quantifying or qualifying practice? Because we shouldn't, there shouldn't be no surprises. I mean, most coaches I ever played with, they didn't like surprises. They like to know exactly what they were going to get.
Yeah.
Coach Levy came up to me and said, hey, man, you've been on the roster for a couple of years. You got to produce. And I think I did a good job of producing. We'll have to ask him next time I talk to him. But at the end of the day, you should know exactly what team you're fielding as a head coach in year 6 with all your players.
By the way,
I don't know if we do.
Well, and so I'm going to give some props to a couple guys that I thought popped yesterday. One guy in particular. And then I'm going to ask you about that because Dave Aranda is supposedly this defensive mastermind. I know we've already kind of cracked jokes about it in our text thread, probably on this podcast. I'm sure others in their text threads are cracking jokes about defensive mastermind. Dave Aranda can't field a defense that can tackle. But let me tell you, I'll just brag on one guy, actually. I was going to name a few, but there's one. Kendrick Simpkins looked like he wanted to play football yesterday. I know he was struggling maybe with some minor injuries in those first couple games. We've heard coaches talk about him before. That dude, there was one play in particular, Terrence. I think it was in the second quarter. I wish I could identify it better, but he put the quarterback on his butt right after the throw in a way that I was very thankful it wasn't a roughing the passer call. Probably could have been if the refs had been a little more ticky-tack about it, but they let it go. And it was, one, encouraging to see because I need to see more of that. But two, it was in stark contrast to how I felt like so much of the team played. Because I noticed, I was like, oh, who just did that? Who put that quarterback on his butt after the throw? Oh, Kendrick Simpkins. I like that guy. And then he made a couple more plays throughout the game where I saw him really get physical and attack the football. But you talked about a coach doesn't need surprises. They need to know in year 6, who's my personnel? Who can I count on? Who's going to produce? And Terrence, it feels like on offense, we know who those guys are. Offensive line is still disappointing. They did have a huge turnaround after about week 5 last year. I'm hoping it doesn't take 2 more weeks for us to see them figure it out. I'm not worried about the offense. Defensively, here are the known commodities. I'm very confident in Keaton Thomas to be where he's supposed to be and to make tackles. I like Kendrick Simpkins. I need Jackie Marshall to be healthy. I think he's a good football player. And I almost said Chris Miller, but that's 3 rosters ago. Why am I forgetting? Devin Bobby, number 3. It was that number 3 safety that hits people. Devin Bobby, I think, is a dog. Outside of those 3 guys, Terrence, I don't know who I'm counting on defense. And I don't know if Dave Aranda does either. I feel like, and I understand you rotate players, especially along the front, but I feel like every drive, there's a different combination of corners, linebackers, safeties, linemen. I don't think they have any idea. I think they're going to watch film this week, and they still have no idea outside of Thomas, Simpkins, Marshall, Bobby. Who are the guys that are going to make a play?
That's That's a great question. Yeah, I think some of these guys play really well in spurts. I would love for our defense to have bowled up and shut Sanford down. I would have loved to have seen fundamental defense across the board. Very opportunistic. They did press hard. They got after the quarterback. They made some plays, but early in the game, it felt like Sanford just was killing themselves. And we don't want to talk about any other coaches on this podcast. This is all about Baylor. But we see coaches fire up their starters if they're down, if they're not playing up to a certain standard. I tell my kids all the time, the standard is the standard. Like, we can't renegotiate the standard. Maybe we need to renegotiate something there in Waco, because you can't keep doing this. It is the definition of insanity. And when I watch Baylor football and I see the talent, how these guys come and prepare, and you expect something. Me and my friends were just talking about it today, relationships and marriage and kids. When relationships go, sideways, is because of unmet expectation or misaligned. And so maybe as fans, we have misaligned expectations of what we should see after a defensive coordinator fields a team and stomps Trevor Lawrence, who's an NFL quarterback, out and wins the national championship. I think they had one of the largest point differentials behind that Florida State team that won in 2012 or 2013. Most point differential by anybody. That defense was stopping everybody.
Right. It wasn't just, it was a huge credit to Burrow.
Oh, they had an offense.
Chase and those guys. But yeah, you're right. The point differential tells the story.
Everybody.
Too. Yeah, that's
everybody.
Right. Yep.
And it is very different to what we see here in Waco, Texas.
Except for, and Terrence, this is a question. I don't remember if we've discussed this here. I don't think we have, but I've seen other chatter about this elsewhere. There is a question. The one time Dave Aranda's defense, and I know he wasn't calling the plays, but we assume he's got his hands all in the scheme even when he wasn't calling plays. The one time this defense did look that good was 2021. And you had Jalen Petrie and Terrell Bernard, who both just signed huge second NFL contracts, and they are still killing it in the league. We love those guys, what they do for Baylor. And you had some other stars on that defense too, who aren't NFL guys, but played very well that season. That was the last time Baylor had a defense that was remotely like that. That was very good. Good enough to win a title and shut Ole Miss down. And I know they injured a quarterback on that first drive. But so the question that I've seen floating around is Dave Aranda unable to adapt to personnel that aren't elite? I think it's a fair question. I don't know the answer to that question, but the question is, when you had two NFL stars playing as your two most important defensive players at Baylor, Dave Aranda's defense looked great, but we haven't had that caliber of athlete on the defensive side since.
I know we talked about this in chat. I'm not going to put it here, but when I was at Baylor, Coach Kazgazadi was the best strength coach in America.
He was.
Bar none.
He was.
Bar none. I came in as a 2-star recruit. I kid you not. My fastest 40 in high school was a 4.72 hand time. 4.72 hand time. I left Baylor at 2.40, and I ran a 4.47 at Pro Day.
Oof.
And so when you think about development and putting people, when you think about what Rule had and he left, and then they go to a championship a couple years later, that team had been cooked by Rule. They have been, you practice this way or I don't want you on my team.
Yep.
You perform this way, I don't want you on our team. And it's hard when you can't get a Jalen Carter out of high school. Nick Saban said, I don't have time to develop. What are you going to do? You're going to get a 5'10" white linebacker, and I'm going to just go get Derrick Henry out of high school. It's going to take your guy 4 years to tackle Derrick Henry, and by then it's too late. And so we don't have the caliber athletes that LSU has. We don't have the money to go get those athletes.
That's right.
So where does it start? Baylor started getting good athletes. Robert was what, a 3-star athlete?
He
was.
was.
Kendall, 3-star athlete.
3 stars. Yep.
Terrence Williams.
2-star.
Phil Taylor, Danny Watkins. I mean, all these guys, Jason Smith, these guys were not all Americans coming in. They were just some guys that wanted to play football.
That's right.
And so Kaz Gazzotti, difference maker. I think he's the reason why TCU had a good season a couple years ago. I think it's the reason why TCU is probably going to be decently good this year. They got an offense. They got a defense that's flying around, popping people. So it starts with development. And I know in the age of NIL, it's hard to keep guys and develop.
Yes.
I get that. Some programs do it well, though. I'm not going to call out any names. I know we talked about it in the chat, but name one player on our team, one, that's developed from a freshman to a senior. Name one this year.
Hey, I will tell you, but I think it's a credit to the position coach, and that's Josh Cameron. And I think Dallas Baker is a guy who's kind of proven his value in this regard you're talking about, of developing wide receivers. That I feel like our wide receivers the last few years leave a lot better than they come in, whether it's Josh Cameron walk on as a freshman or even Ashton Hawkins development over a season and a half coming from Texas State. But to your point, that has to be a team growth, not oh man, we got a good receivers coach. Not, oh man, Keenan Hall's a good recruiter. Like we've got to get all of this aligned where all these guys are developing, and we're not, by the way, seeing it on the defensive side of the ball. And that's not me.
So outside of Josh Cameron, because Josh Cameron he got a great mom. I hope she's listening today. But Josh Cameron is also a walk-on. I played college football. I could never be a walk-on. I love football. Like what they had to go through, I could never be a walk-on. So you have a very highly internally motivated individual.
Mm-hmm.
So regardless of what anyone else does, he's going to get it done. So I want to see one other person on our roster. Chat, chime in, hit me up on Twitter, hit us up on Twitter. I want to see one other player that's this coaching staff's recruits. No one else's recruits. Year 6, there's 100 guys you can pick from. I want to see one that you saw, dang, when he came in, I didn't think it was going to be that case, and boom, next thing you know.
Yeah.
Your brain's in the fog thinking about it right now.
Because and it is different. We are in a different era. Like I don't want to make excuses for Coach Aranda.
Agree.
Transfer portal makes this hard. Because I would say Sawyer's developed quite a bit, but he was obviously a transfer in. I would say Jacob Redding getting an interception last week was a sign of development. He was also a walk-on. So you've added some caveats here that do make this hard, and maybe that is an indictment. And I don't mean to just beat the drum, but I've seen it in the chat here a couple of times already today. I know we were texting about it. That Matt Rule speech that came out last week at halftime of 33-0. I wanted that from Dave Aranda Saturday. And we came out in the third quarter was our worst quarter Saturday. We looked worse. We looked worse after halftime. That's what I'm saying. We looked horrid. We looked horrid in the third quarter. So whatever happened at halftime was junk. And so now you point out something else that I think is true of Matt Rule. I mean, Matt Rule got Kalen Barnes to the NFL. Matt Rule was,
Grayson Arnold.
Yes, and we can criticize.
I mean, there's a lot of guys that were on NFL roster. Did they play or not? But it was enough for value.
Denzel Mims.
Yeah, and look, he's still in the league.
We can. That's the thing, dude. We can. And I had this conversation. I was going to have my buddy Cam Stewart tonight. He couldn't make it. Cam Stewart and I argued about this on the Mosley show this week. we can argue Aranda versus Rule and blah, blah, blah. And Rule didn't win ranked games. And look at what Dave Aranda just beat a ranked team. That's an argument. I will grant you there's an argument. What is not an argument is what you just pointed out. That what Rule could do consistently was recruit talent that wanted to be at Baylor and send them to the NFL. And by the way, I say that he was at Baylor for 3 years.
Look at James Lynch.
Yes. Another great example. He was only at Baylor 3 years, and he got more guys from, like you're saying, 3-star athletes to NFL players in those 3 years than Aranda's done in 6.
The standard is the standard.
That's right.
We cannot. We see videos of Nick Saban cussing out his team, and they're up 70-0.
Right.
Because once my son shot a 3 the other day. I don't let him shoot threes at all. He's 11 years old. He's not strong yet. So he shoots threes and he like chunks it up there and then messes up his form. Well, every time we go to the gym, we start out shooting 100 shots, 100 makes, no matter what. Everybody's coming up and say, you want to play this? Hey, you want to do this? You want to play one-on-one? I'm like, Zay, I'm not worried about any kid in this gym other than you. We're going to get 100 shots, makes. Let's go. And he locks in, he does it. So he's playing with these other kids after, a little while, and he chunks up a 3, and I just happened to see it. I made him, he was holding push-up position maybe 30 minutes, crying, arms weak, he's shaking. I'm hot. And I say, listen, it only takes one time to build bad habits. And once you do it, it's very hard to break bad habits. And so there's some bad habits, missed tackles after missed tackles after missed tackles after missed tackles. That's a bad habit. It is, if you're so there's a saying in coaching. I'm not a coach, but it's a saying. If you're allowing it, you're coaching it. We're coaching bad habits.
Wow. Good word. I'm processing what you're saying. I think you're onto it. Here's the hard part, Terrence. All those criticisms being what they are, Baylor's about to have 9 conference games. And if they go 8-1 in that stretch,
let's go.
Despite the bad habits, we're going to be loving Dave Aranda. So here's my question. As I know we made a commitment to keep these episodes when we don't have a guest fairly brief. So we won't beat this for another 30 minutes, but what do we got to do before Saturday, bro? Like what? And I'll just tell you again, I think this offense can put up 30, 35, 40 on Arizona State. I don't think that's the problem. I actually am weirdly confident that Sawyer Robertson is going to be pissed and do the things necessary to not throw 2 interceptions again. Like that's the kind of guy I think he is. Sam Leavitt, Arizona State last week, they won 34-15 over Texas State. Texas State's a decent group of 5 school. They were 2-0. Sam Leavitt only threw for 180 yards. He did rush for 54, 2 touchdowns through the air, 1 on the ground. By the way, I think he's a pretty good comp to Jackson Arnold on the ground. We're going to see real quick if that stopping that quarterback run on some scrambles has been cleaned up against Leavitt, because he will burn you the same way. I'm worried about this defense, bro. Like Arizona State, I do not think has reached their ceiling offensively this season. Jordan Tyson's a baller, man. Might be the best receiver in the Big 12. Certainly from a draftable NFL perspective.
Yeah.
They're committed. They are committed to the running game, despite having Leavitt and Tyson. That's something they do well. They did it last year with Scadaboo. They're doing it again this year. So, bro, what do you expect? What are you looking for this week as we prepare for Arizona State?
Man, we got to have a low back on the offensive line. There were several plays Saturday. I saw a definite run. It's no play action. It is run all the way. And we standing straight up out of our stance. We got to have a low back. We have to drive. We have to drive. We have to drive. And we have to establish a run. There is no secret to our success last year. Bryson Washington and Dalton Pendergrass started running the ball very effectively. And when you can do that, you simplify things in the quarterback's mind as well as the OC's. So we have to be able to run the ball effectively. We got 2 running backs that are super dynamic, and we got to see some of our young guys compete last week. But if we don't establish the run early against these next 3 teams in this second quarter of the season, I think it's pretty safe to say that we don't really have a run game. And we try to do that this Saturday. Bryson Washington, even outside that long run, he averaged over 5 yards a carry. I was thinking we would have way more big plays on offense. I think the deepest ball was maybe 30, 40 yards.
Yeah,
And
Ashton, he underthrew that. Yeah.
yeah, it's so like I just remember teams like we were facing in Sanford and we had walk-ons playing in the middle of the third quarter. So I was hoping to see a couple of quarterbacks. We'll talk about not seeing Walker White, next time.
Ugh.
But yeah, anyways.
That's frightening. It's frightening.
So what you asked me is, what do we need to do Saturday? We have to run the ball. We have to establish the run, and we have to have low backs on the offensive line. Our running backs are very capable of breaking a tackle. We can't break every tackle in the backfield. Sawyer just has to be quick and decisive. As the year goes on, a lot of those miscues should clean up.
Yes.
And I think as year 2, there's a much more heavier install from the offensive coordinator, Spavital. I think Sawyer is still digesting the complexity of the offense as it grows and as he's getting more on his plate. And then defensively, our front seven has to be able to get after a quarterback. I think what we saw this weekend is getting interceptions and making plays. It's when a quarterback is unsettled in the backfield, and that happens when you have a front seven that can get to the quarterback without sending any exotic blitzes or any pressures. It's being able to beat the man in front of you. So we're going to have to maintain rush lanes against Sam Levitt this weekend.
I'm just not confident we can do that up front, man. And I think as you're talking about scheme and the complexity of Jake Spavital's kind of year 2 install, maybe being something that's affecting Sawyer just a little bit. Here's what I know about Spav. I think I've decided, and Art Briles was great at this. I think all great offensive coaches do this well. Spav is going to adapt to his personnel. I think Spav is going to, and we saw him doing it with Daquan Finn for 2 games too. It just that dude wasn't what we thought we were paying for. But that offense is going to cater to Sawyer's strengths. So we've already seen twice in the Auburn and SMU games, him kind of transition over the course of the game to throws over the middle of the field. Typically, Sawyer is very accurate on those throws, those 10, 15-yard crossing patterns over the middle. He's money. And Ashton runs them well. Josh runs them well. Michael Trigg is often open in that part of the field. So I have confidence Spav will adjust to his personnel. He is going to find ways to get Caden Knighton in space because that dude is electric. He is going to find ways to get Sawyer easy throws. Like, I have a lot of confidence on that side of the football. I am asking, and I guess I've been asking it for 40 minutes now, and I don't know the answer. I don't know if Dave is doing that. I'm sure he can, but I don't know if Dave is the kind of coach who is so locked into his system. He's so, defensively, such a lab scientist, right? That this is what we're going to do, and you need to do it excellently, which on one hand, I admire. On the other hand, Terrence, we don't have the bodies up front to beat guys one-on-one. Not yet. I haven't seen it. Matthew Fobbs-White will occasionally pop. But Jackie Marshall, I know, is a good player. But we are not going to control that line of scrimmage defensively. I haven't seen it yet. I would love to be wrong. But he's going to almost have to scheme that pressure. I know you said without exotic blitzes, but he's going to have to use Keaton Thomas to blitz the quarterback 5 times a game. Kind of like we used to do with Taylor Young under Matt Rule or Terrell Bernard, early in Dave Aranda's time. He is going to have to continue to use Simpkins to get after the quarterback. He's going to have to get those athletes in position to make those things happen. And I just wonder if there's enough talent around those guys and enough willingness to adapt on Aranda's part for that to be effective.
Well, I would say Spavital probably has more unique puzzle pieces to work with.
For sure.
than Dave Aranda does on the defensive side. You know, who knows? I think confidence is huge. You give a guy a ton of confidence and don't browbeat them, that they play out of their mind. And I don't know. I do think, as great as Coach Kaz was, I think he lied to us a lot about who we were and who we thought we were, and what we actually produced on the field. But it all worked. I mean, I think we were the most, when my senior year, there's not a game we went into that I felt like we were not about to dominate. I mean, Oklahoma State, we put up 700 yards of offense, didn't win. Texas A&M, Kansas State was just a gut-wrenching loss. But other than that, man, when we stepped on the field against Oklahoma, against Texas, Texas Tech, anyone, we felt super confident in our assignments, our alignment, and our technique. And Coach Kaz always said finished. And so at the end of the day, it's about what this team is going to do. Are they going to finish? I think they got their directive from both OC and DC to go out there and play a game that is good enough, that's acceptable enough, that is the standard of Baylor football to beat Arizona State. And if we beat Arizona State, that gives me a little bit more courage to believe we can beat those next two teams.
Yeah.
Because they're not great teams.
No.
Arizona State is a playoff team from last year.
Oklahoma State is bad, bro.
Yeah. Well,
Mike
State
Gundy's
is
going to
well.
get fired. Yeah.
I mean, when we think about Iowa State is not beating anybody up, but they are 3-4-0. So
4-0, yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's interesting to see it all, but we gotta play our level of football, and we, as much as the score was 42-7 this weekend, I think everyone, even the coaches included, understand that was not the level of football we all expected, and
Correct.
we got to do better. We do better this week, we'll be fine.
Correct. I was scrolling back through the comments because I saw something about 40 minutes ago I was trying to bring up, and I couldn't find it quickly. Thanks for all the comments, by the way. Live chat on YouTube. Appreciate you guys for watching. 150 people right now. Quickly, like and subscribe on YouTube. Please bear with me. Gather & Co. Kitchen and Bath is our sponsor. The Falconberry family here in Waco. If you're trying to renovate an outdoor patio, outdoor space, pergola, or like a bathroom, they specialize in, let's say your mom's living with you and you need to make the bathroom accessible and safe. They are the ones to do it. They'll do it quickly. They'll do it affordably, exactly to your specifications. They want to make home the place you want to be. Talk to my friend Kelly, Gather & Co. The comment I saw that I couldn't find and bring back up here, Terrence, was the best thing for Baylor. It's not good for the league. It's great for Baylor. This Big 12 is truly wide open again. And this year, it's not because there's a bunch of great teams. It's because I think there's a bunch of good teams that aren't great. Right now, Utah and Texas Tech are ranked, but they haven't played anybody. They could be excellent teams. They could not be. They haven't really been tested. Iowa State's ranked, but as you pointed out, they've beaten some good teams. I think Iowa's a good team, but they've not looked excellent doing it. Now I would pick them if gun to my head, I have to pick a Big 12 champ right now. I'm probably picking Iowa State because I like Rocco Beck. I like Matt Campbell. TCU, great call out. They look good.
TCU and Tech are my Big 12 champions.
But I'm not convinced how good TCU is because I'm not convinced North Carolina's any good, bro.
They're probably not.
I'm not.
They're probably not. But they dismantled. If TCU would have played Sanford, it would have been a different score. They beat North Carolina like we beat Sanford.
That's true.
I mean,
That's true.
I could care less how good they are. They dominated the game. You
true.
cannot look back at yesterday's game and say we dominated. Texas Tech has dominated every game in front of them. Utah, you are what your schedule are. And Alabama's like, hey, I can't help. We schedule, Wofford State. At the end of the day, you beat the people in front of you. Texas Tech, TCU, Utah, I think they are a cut above everyone else. Arizona, you got to throw them in there as well because they're undefeated.
They're sneaky. They're sneaky. Yep.
But to their defense, I haven't seen all those teams play. I have watched Texas Tech play, in TCU. So it is wide open. I think it's
And listen,
it's a down league this year. If
you're right.
if we're being honest,
Cincinnati sneaky. I'll give them that too.
I almost had Nebraska early this year.
Yeah. Here's what I'll give you about TCU and Utah, because Baylor won't face Tech this year. Baylor won't face Iowa State. We do have TCU on the schedule and Utah on the schedule later down the road. Those are two quarterbacks that can really hurt you, man. I love Sawyer Robertson. I'm glad he's Baylor's quarterback. I want him to win the Heisman Trophy. I think if there's two, like I said in my intro, if there's 2 minutes on the to win the game, there's not a quarterback in the Big 12 I'm taking over Sawyer, because I trust him to make the right play. But dadgummit, Dampier is dynamic, man. And we knew he was an athlete, but he's been throwing the ball better right now at Utah than he ever threw it at New Mexico. He looks dangerous. He's in some Heisman conversations right now over there at Utah. And then Josh Hoover, like you said, for TCU, we texted about this after that game. Decisive with the football, man. Like, great arm, great between the ears, decisive with the football. And we even saw that in Waco last year when Baylor squeaked out that win over TCU in Waco. He looked good. If not for that drop wide open over the middle of the field, that might have been a different football game. Man, we could do this for another half hour, but it's just about time for us to go, Terrence.
Yeah, I agree. Wrap it up.
I agree with you, though. The second quarter of the season coming up, starting with Arizona State. If Baylor can go 3-0 in their next three, and you one at a time, let's go 1-0 this week, but the next three are pivotal, because that is when you go into that TCU game next, and you really are going to need that momentum, because they could be dangerous, and you're really going to want to have some of these things tightened up by the time the back half you face TCU, Cincinnati, Arizona, and Utah, who right now all look like they're in the top half of this conference. Any final words from you, Terrence Ganaway, before we put a bow on this thing and tell our friends goodbye?
Yeah, I think there's some people still on the fence anyways, but if you go 1-2 in this next quarter of the season, you don't have to worry about packing out UCF on the 1st of November. You don't have to worry about any other game, because everybody's checking out. It's just unacceptable to see what Oklahoma State and Kansas State have done this year, and we not be up for those games, prepared, fall, practice. I don't care about anybody other than what we have in Waco, Texas at Baylor, but we have to start fast at the start of this quarter. And as you know, and as you said last week, we don't start fast in quarters, the first quarter. And so we need to make sure this is a different mantra, mojo, whatever you got to get these guys riled up and get them ready to play Arizona State, because Arizona State is on a mission. They're on a mission. And I don't just want to disrupt their mission just because they're coming in town. I want to be on the same mission as they are. Get to the Big 12 championship, win the championship.
That's right.
Get to the playoffs.
That's right.
And that's Arizona State's mission. And I bet you they're coming in and they're figuring out, how can we stop Sawyer? How can we, get our receiver Tyson up the field, making big plays? And how can we cripple them early at their own spot? So ESPN has them as a favorite. I know Vegas thinks differently, but we got to play ball this weekend.
To that point, Kenny Dillingham is like us, bro. He's our age. And I heard someone say this
bro.
I heard someone say this last season. I think this is accurate. One of my buddies, might have been Bartlemy, actually, said Kenny Dillingham is the first coach I've seen that wants to run an offense like he's playing the college football video game. Like, trick plays just happen as part of that offense. He is unafraid, as you're talking about, to go for your throat anytime. I think he outcoached Sark in that playoff game, by the way.
They should have,
they just barely lost on like two big Quinn Ewers throws, right? Like, I think he outcoached Sark in that game. I do. And so, to your point, I'm not convinced Hugh Freeze is a great coach, and Auburn came in here and bullied us around.
Correct.
I think
Arizona State is on a mission.
I think Rhett Lashley is a good coach, but but I think Kenny Dillingham is different. And
Yeah.
if you give this Arizona State team a window in that first quarter, he is going to make sure that team stomps on Baylor's throat.
I like Kenny Dillingham. I just think he's an all-around good person, but he has something to prove. He wasn't a college football player.
Right.
He's a GA guy living out his childhood dream
at his school.
Yeah, he has everything to prove, and I love it. Kirby Smart, they go out there and beat someone. Everyone doubted us. They beat someone 70 points by 7. Everyone doubted us. I didn't doubt my team. Dan Lannon, I didn't doubt my team. We are who we say we are. We're gonna Nick Saban, and I love it. And I want to play guys like that. I mean, it gets me going. And I bet you, if whoever wins this week, they would have won in practice. There's no getting around it. You don't get away from a game. You don't get away from a game and say, hey, we just went out there. We're the better team. We didn't have to practice this week. They would have won in practice. So as far as I know, Baylor's probably off tomorrow. Arizona State is probably off tomorrow. And then they're watching film. They're getting rehab. And they're making sure people are healthy, ready to go. Tuesday's a big practice. Wednesday's a big practice. It's install. Thursday, hey, let's just clean up things. Friday, you don't even get out of your street clothes. It's just walk through. And so we need to make sure Tuesday and Wednesday we win the game on Saturday. And I hope Baylor does it.
I hope so too. I don't even want to predict this game, man.
No, well,
I don't know how I feel.
Yeah,
let's do this. Let's do this. Everybody watching, thank you so much. 162 people with us between X and YouTube right now. Appreciate all of you. My name is Scotty Swingler. This is Terrence Ganaway. It is Please Bear With Me. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Do this as well, though. We're part of the Rogue Media family. Rogue Media and 365 Sports have partnered to create the Green and Gold Game Day show, which happens 3 hours before every home football game, 2 hours before every road football game this season. We have had kind of a funny time getting that thing rolling, but we are rolling. And we will be live at the Camp Fimfo tailgate, which is the old Georgia spot, 3 hours prior to kickoff this Saturday. And you can find us on YouTube at Green and Gold Game Day. Look for Green and Gold Game Day on YouTube. Like and subscribe. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to talk Terrence Ganaway into being down there Saturday and getting him on that set. And he and I will make a prediction Saturday, maybe after we hear some things from practice this week. Hope you can make it, Terrence. I will be there, whether Terrence is there or not. Like and subscribe to Please Bear With Me and Green and Gold Game Day. Check out Gather & Co. if you're thinking about doing any remodeling at your house. Gather & Co. Waco, great people. I love them. They're genuinely good Christian people that are my friends and big supporters of us here at Please Bear With Me. Terrence, you're the man, dude. Good chat today.
Anytime, Scotty. Anytime, man. Always a pleasure to link up with you.
Always, brother. Let me set up this quick outro because I am not just the host, but the producer of this stream as well. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. It's been Please Bear With Me. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple after we do these live streams, but we'd love you to join us for the live streams. Like, subscribe on YouTube. See you next time. For Terrence Ganaway, my name is Scotty Swingler. Sick 'em Bears. Thanks for being with us.
We are Rogue Media Sports.